Right, morning. Welcome, everybody. I've just been reminded it is the 1st of April. So, hopefully there are no fools around, but, I'm not too sure, having a look at one or two of the images on the screen in front of me this morning, but I do believe we're talking about excuses. So I'm going to kick off with my excuse. I do apologize. I didn't get around to sending out the email and uploading the YouTube video yesterday. I've got all sorts of excuses which I could put in there, but probably none of them are particularly valid. As with most excuses, they tend not to be real justifications. Just avoidance, I think. Ed totally denies that the topic was his idea. He says it was Trevor's. I think we'll have to go to Trevor first for a change. So, Trevor, do you remember? Or do you have an excuse as well that you don't know what the topic was?
I cannot tell a lie. It was mine. So it is right, and it just infuriates me to have to admit that. So you'll never hear that statement again. Now, the reason that I actually wanted to bring it up is because I had a profound moment of personal wisdom related back to thinking, related back to the beginning of COVID and thinking about all the things that we had done that had got us to this particular point, and going down the route of wisdom's chats beginning, not knowing a thing about Zoom. Plus, prior to that, I was completely befuddled by a software technology that said I could do anything in 10 minutes. 10 months later, I still couldn't open the front end of that blooming program. But Lee and Ivan actually took it on and they made magic happen with it, which frustrated the hell out of me. And so it went on throughout the whole of COVID. But during that time, we did phenomenal things as a bunch of folk out of Wisdoms and out of the chamber teams, people who came together. And I remember us talking about putting together a virtual trade fair because of what we had learned in operating Wisdom's chats off the Zoom platform. And we said, well, let's go global. And then we met with a couple of guys in London who introduced us to some very interesting people like David Brock and Mark Jarrett. We also got some real laggards there in the UK. Can't remember their names. EC, I'll initialize. I won't put them into any form of acronym. And as we were going through the year, I was sitting back a couple of weeks ago and saying, geez, we did phenomenal things, extraordinary things as a group of people, all from their different perspectives. I go back to Lee writing the program of the treasure hunt and putting that together and taking it out to the world from a global perspective, and Ivan producing that BBX UK. I just still doff my cap onto what he did there. And I thought to myself, man, what is the impact on me? And the impact on me was total frustration, totally frustrated that I couldn't be doing the type of things that they were doing. And I was looking at other people who were just sitting back through COVID, not really doing much, or maybe they were doing a ton of things, but they weren't sharing it with us as we were sharing it with them. And then I was also saying, well, whose fault is it that I'm so frustrated and I'm lacking in patience and I'm doing all of this sort of thing? And some of the discussions on Wisdom's chats started turning around about people taking responsibility for things in life. And I happened to wake up in the morning and come up with a little statement. I sometimes do that. And I wrote down and said, well, look, I can be as frustrated as I want with everything and anyone else. But if I actually think about it, my only excuse is me. And so when I wrote that down, and I'm going to do this here, my only excuse is me. You can see our phosphate type, which frustrates the hell out of me too. And, I sat and looked and looked and looked and looked at the statement, and I thought, you know what, that's perhaps one of the most profound statements I've ever made. No, it's not. No, it could be. I think one of the most profound statements I made is, if you think it, it's already been thunked. I don't know if Ed's aware of that one. If you think it, I'm a speed typist, it has already been thunked. So perhaps I'm going to, if I can find a B on the keyboard, I'll actually put it there. So my only excuse for not being a speed typist and doing the things that I want to do is actually me. I can't point to anyone else with what they've done in life or any other one's impact. If I want to think about how did I end up getting here in my life, I can't blame anyone else but me, which I think is quite stunning, because that says, listen, if I want to move forward over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, whom am I actually going to blame for the things that happen in the future? And I think with that realization, now, who's that who said, I think, therefore I am? You see, this guy, he just pushes me. That's virtual reality, I think. I don't know where I had that. I am, therefore I think. There's lovely comments that actually go in here. But the only reason I brought up this topic was because I wanted to record for posterity. My only excuse is me, trademarked by Trevor. And it will probably go into my new publication. I can't remember what the book is.
All right, thanks, Trevor. So nobody else has got an excuse to talk about because they're all yours. Is that what you said? Yeah, okay. All right. So Jasper, what's your excuse?
My excuse is Trevor. I could have been a much better person, but unfortunately, I met Trevor. So, no, I think, on that same angle of who do we really blame? I think when the mirror is very harsh, because all those things that you hold up to say, this is the reason why I can't be, or why this happened to me. As you do it, the mirror tells you, no, it's not. And I was thinking of what we said earlier in one of the earlier discussions about empathy and sympathy. So sympathy is, absolutely, you're right. That's a bad situation, apartheid, poor parents, government, economy, etc., etc. But then if you put up the mirror correctly, the sympathy must change to empathy that says, all right, these are facts, but so what are you going to do about it? And, if you speak to people who are good in sailing, I went out with one or two of these people in my earlier years, but it doesn't matter how the wind blow on the day, they had fun because they set their sails to the wind and they know how to do it. And right now there are entrepreneurs out there that says this is the best time we've ever lived in history. Peter Diamandis, who says we've never had more opportunity and more things to do, and the challenges that is faced by society is now greater than ever, and there's money in solving it. But you'll still have the people who try the easy way out and say, poor me, if only this and if only that. Years back when I was very active in the New Life business, we attended a world conference, and they had a guy in a wheelchair who had an accident. I think it was a ski accident or something, and he was a very active sportsman, and then he got paralyzed from the waist down. And then after feeling sorry for himself for a while, he then went through rehab, and he was wheelchair bound, and he's very strong in his upper body, but paralyzed down. And then he became he was a professional basketball player before, and then he continued, and he became a wheelchair basketball player, and went on and became participate in the Olympics in that capacity. But what was impressive is on the stage how he showed his ability with the wheelchair, falling out of the wheelchair, getting back up, doing all sorts of stunts with the wheelchair. And then they showed the documentary where, with his wheelchair dragged behind him, he actually climbed the mountain with just pulling himself up on his hands and his upper body strength. And obviously had a team with him. But the point is, and he used it. He said, "I'm not disabled. I'm impaired, but I'm not disabled. I find other ways to enable myself to do what needs to be done." And then he says, "What's your excuse?" And I remember that, "What's your excuse?" It was just wiped off the table, because we really have no excuse. And for every person who blames an alcoholic father or apartheid or whatever, there's another person who says, because of apartheid. We have a Maponya whose family today is owning assets around the world. And because of alcoholic fathers, you have people who've now rised up to the point of prominence in society, be it in politics or business or whatever the case may be. So what one person uses an excuse, another one uses motivation. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, Jasper. So you've just taken away everybody else's excuses. So between Trevor and you, you've solved the world's problems, I think. So Komal, your thoughts on excuses?
Hi everyone, hello everyone. So excuse is again I'm totally agreed with the Trevor. He said excuse is only me. Yes, obviously that is me only. There can be the multiple reasons to not doing the things, but there can be the one reason if you want to do the thing. As Jasper said, he had a broken leg, and still he stood on the mountain, and that is right. If I don't want to do anything, then I will be saying these, that reasons and all. But if I want to do anything, I will say this is my motivation, this is my inspiration, and that is my excuse of doing the things, not doing the things. That's the way. And
Thanks.
in my life again, I don't make the excuses. If I like the thing, if I'm passionate, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, I will definitely doing the thing. No matters how much I'm burning myself, doesn't matter for me. If I'm burning myself, that is my excuse of doing the thing. If someone says you can't do the thing, that their excuse of not motivating me.
Thanks, Komal. Yeah, I like that. Your excuse to do the things. I think that's a great one. I think we'll have to pick up on that one. So, what is your excuse to do something, not to not do something? So, Lee, let's come across to you next.
There's a story that happened to me that was my cure in terms of excuses. In the early days of my business, I ran time management workshops, and I advertised, and a new client that I didn't know booked me for a time management course, and it happened to fall during the period of time when we first started with load shedding. So Komal, that's here in South Africa, we call these power outages load shedding. We didn't call it that at the time. I don't know what we called it when it first started, but what it ended up, the result of it is that all our traffic lights didn't work. And so morning traffic was backed up way more than it usually was. So I was this particular venue that I was going to, this client's place that I'd been to. I checked it out, but when I was on my way there to actually run the course, I got snarled up in this traffic and I was late. I was late for a time management workshop. And they cancelled it. They said, no, sorry. We stood around. We were here for 15 minutes. You weren't here. Done. They'd already paid a deposit and that's it. I had to give the deposit back. And to me, I thought, I felt so but it's so out of my control. And they were adamant that I should have made a plan. I should have anticipated. And it was not a good enough excuse to say I got caught up in traffic. And I realized that actually you have to take responsibility. And sometimes the consequences of that responsibility is entirely yours. Not sometimes, it is all, as Trevor says, the excuse is me. And I often come back to that because it was, as I say, it was early days in my business. And so it was a big awakening. And so it just is a point at which I always think about what is my responsibility, and that if I can't do something or it's finding it difficult or whatever the case may be, what do I need to do? What is my responsibility? And I find blame. So if we just go that direction, I find blame very useless. I just find that it's no one accepts blame. It's no use passing it on. It's the worst cycle I think you can get into is blame, even of yourself. So there you go.
All right, thanks, Lee. Oh, I'm glad you were on time this morning, so at least you got that one right. So Ed, yeah, do you just run away from your excuses or do you run towards them?
Oh, I definitely make loads of excuses. My excuse is I didn't get the email. So there you go. Yeah, I think it's
so
interesting.
Just pass the blame over to me. It's fine.
I think it's interesting actually because I never thought about this before, but Lee mentioned blame, and of course excuses are an attempt to lessen blame. So if there was no blame, would we make excuses? I think it was quite interesting. And we're totally irrational in how we make our excuses. I was helping with a race one time, and I'd actually marked the course out. Oh no, I hadn't marked the course out. I checked the course marking, and it went along the coastal path, and then it turned inland. And where it turned inland, there were 3 arrows. And if you missed the turn, a bit further on, there was a cross. So you knew you'd gone the wrong way and needed to come back. And then after I checked the course, my checkpoint, my water station, was just after the turn. And 278 people came through with no problem at all. One person came through moaning that he'd missed the turn and blaming the course marking. And I thought, well, 278 people got it right, one person got it wrong. I wonder where the blame lies there. And of course, he couldn't admit to himself that he'd made a mistake, so he blamed everyone else, which I thought was quite interesting. And when I'm talking to runners and other people, I said, there's one, and I don't believe there are fundamental truths, but there's one big truth. You can have excuses or you can have results. You cannot have both. And I think Komal has a thing in her background that says the only limits are me. And I think my only limits are my excuses. But I think excuse is an interesting word because it turn it around, well, change pronunciation, it becomes excuse. Please excuse me. That's all right, I'll excuse you. So it becomes a nice word then, doesn't it? I mean, excuse is a very negative word, meaning, oh, I'm not going to accept the blame. But we then turn it round and say, excuse me, I'm not going to blame you. And it's okay, you made a mistake, I forgive you. So I think it's a very interesting word, but I think, yeah, it is. It's something we use not to accept responsibility, not to agree that the cause of what's happened is our fault. Destiny was in our hands and we let it slip away. So yes, you cannot have excuses and results. You've got to choose which one you want. Do you want to have success, or do you want to have failure? And no matter what's happening in your life, you are the only one that makes that thing. So that saying that Trevor came up with to start with, this is going to be a very strange wisdom's chats, because at the start, Trevor said I was right. And towards the end, I'm going to say Trevor was right. My only excuse is me.
All right, good. So, yeah, you never know what's going to happen on wisdom's chats. The strangest of things can occur, and there's no excuse for that, because that's the intention. So the question is an excuse or is it an intention? And I think it's all about intention. Are you intentionally trying to avoid the blame, or you intentionally, as Komal said, and I love what you said, Komal, there, your excuse to do something. So rather than your excuse not to do something. So I think that's putting again a great positive spin on, and as Ed said, a negative word, or can be a negative word, depending on how you apply it in your language. And I must admit, I hadn't thought about the flip that you brought in there, Ed, but it's a good one. So please excuse me, because I'm lost for words. and I'm not too sure where we go from here. So yeah, I think excuses are weakness. Leave it there. So yeah, anyone else want to add anything? We've got a few more minutes. We've got no excuse. We need to talk for at least another 7 minutes. So pick it up from there. So what's the topic for tomorrow? We are going to be on tomorrow for those who want to join us. We'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So there's some excuses not to be here tomorrow. And I know Lee's got a valid one, but the rest of you, up to you. If you want to join us, you can. Ed, yeah.
I'd like to know how the other people at Lee's time management course managed to get there. If the traffic jam was all snarled up, how did they get there? And I think it's interesting because my ex-business partner was always late. And he always had an excuse. And you think, well, haven't you kind of figured out that everyone else got here on time and you didn't? Or do you just think the world moves against you? And I always take this traffic thing as it's not an excuse. It's bad planning. Yes, things do go wrong sometimes, and I always used to say to people, if you're coming to a meeting with me, I know you're going to get here before time, and you're going to sit in the cafe across the road, waiting for the time of the meeting. So if you do arrive early, give me a call. If I'm not busy, I'll see you then, rather than you waste your time. And I used to be absolutely brutal with people that I knew were always late. If they turned up late, I said, sorry, I'm in my next meeting. And my children learned that as well, that if I said we were leaving at 9 o'clock in the morning and they wanted a lift, they had to be in the car at 9 o'clock in the morning, because I would be driving out of the drive at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they would be left on the side of the road waiting. So yeah, I hate excuses, and I think they are, in a way, our comfort blanket. Oh, I'd love to travel to South Africa, but I haven't got the money, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the so-and-so. So excuses are a comfort blanket, I think. But no idea what to talk about tomorrow. I'm glad you're on, because I was thinking of having a lie-in, so there goes my excuse.
Good. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I absolutely hate being late for meetings, and so will frequently wind up arriving sometimes half an hour, maybe even more early, because earlier than that, because I am concerned about the traffic or the directions. It's a place I've never been to before. Those kind of things. So I understand that so totally. And a friend of mine who's spent his life in sales and very good at it. He used to get to meetings, and he would give the person he was meeting maximum of 10 minutes grace on arriving, and if the person then wasn't there, he would walk out. Said, "Well, you're not the kind of person I want to do business with. I'm not even going to try and sell you. I'm not going to remake the appointment." And he was very, very strong on that particular one, and it's quite interesting. So it can work from both sides of the coin as well. So yeah, good. Trevor, you're unmuted. Do you want to say something, or shall I just give it to Komal, because your excuses, you were sleeping there?
No, did you hear me snoring?
Yep.
I was bored listening to what you were saying. But something that Ed brought up was interesting, and that was being responsible for the decisions you take. So I don't know if we ventured down the route of decision making and or justification of poor decisions, which are probably excuses. But the power of decision making, and how decisive are we in our decisions? I mean, I'm obviously biased because I'm pretty decisive on what I'm about, but I think it's related to excuses. How decisive are you? And once you've taken a decision, if you've gone down the wrong route, do you go back and make those excuses or try and justify your actions? Or so do you spend all your time on the blame game, as opposed to turn around and say, stuff it. I took the decision. I got here. Okay, let me start again and move on. So I don't know if that gives Lee something that she can work on as a topic.
All right, Komal, you wanted to add some thoughts in? Komal, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So one thing, this is my giveaway for for the youngsters, especially for the youngsters. If we stop excusing or give the excuses to anyone, then the success rate in our country or in our world will be increasing, because we have seen lot of leaders, lot of entrepreneurs in our era, and they're doing a great, like Elon Musk, like Bill Gates, Mark, and there are other leaders as well. They didn't make the excuses in their life, that's why they're on such stage. We are following them. And I just want to give this point to everyone, don't make excuses. If someone says you can't do this thing, just say, this is the excuse you're giving to me, I can do this.
Great, thanks, Komal. I like that. Yeah. All right, good stuff. So Lee, are you happy with Trevor's proposal? Decisions. We did discuss decisions, but from a different angle on the UK Wisdom's chats yesterday. I think it was, but we can do decisions again and from a different angle tomorrow morning. So those of you who won't join us, well, have a happy Easter Friday and Easter weekend. And those who can join us, we look forward to meeting you tomorrow morning at the same time, same place. Good, where we will talk decisions. Have a good one. Cheers.